Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities all in the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We bring you this broadcast from Edina's new Public Works Facility building. And joining us to talk about all the activities this time of year especially, Public Works Director Wayne Houle. Welcome to In Edina. Happy spring.
Thank you. Welcome to our facility.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We've been here before, followed the construction all along, but this place is now hopping. Everything in order and working smoothly?
It is. We've been in here for almost about 9 months or so, 10 months, and made it through winter. Very efficient operations that we found out with this building. So it pulled everybody together and kind of restructured and how people interact, and yes, it's been a fantastic building so far.
Wonderful. Congratulations on all the work. And we should acknowledge Public Works employees. Well, I know we pay taxes for Public Works employees and the many activities in the city, but they're kind of behind the scenes. We don't really see them until we really need them.
That's right. I always consider our staff the kind of the unseen workers of city government, and as they're behind the scenes, they're filling the potholes, striping the lanes of traffic, putting the crosswalks down, keeping the water systems going, and they just aren't seen until we actually have a crisis, water main breaks and such, and then that's when the general public actually sees us come to work. But they're actually working pretty much nonstop up till that point.
Yeah, all eyes on you when something goes wrong in the city. And we should mention it's National Public Works Appreciation Week in Midway, but you're a year-round operation and there is always something going on in the infrastructure. Let's start with roadways, the many activities just on the roads itself.
Yep, on the roadways, we just came off of one of the busiest, heaviest snowfall seasons we've ever had. So they've actually have worked almost literally nonstop plowing the roadways, and then the same staff comes out in the spring, fills the potholes. They pick up the city basically of litter. We do that every spring, and then from there we stripe and maintain the roadways itself, upgrade the water systems, keeps the pump houses going. We start up the seasonal wells throughout the spring months. To keep the water tower filled so that people can water their lawns, drink the water, and keep it.
Firefighters can put out fires.
Can put out fires and such. So yeah, we're constantly doing work around the clock here of it. Through the summer months, we actually add seasonal staff to our group to help out the full-time workers.
Now, how many full-time workers in Public Works alone?
We have 63 full-time workers in the Public Works organization, and then we add another probably 20 to 30 seasonal staff to complement that staff.
Mm-hmm. And there's tons of neighborhood revitalization projects that are going on too.
Yep.
Right?
We have a real aggressive local roadway reconstruction program. We have about 200 some miles of roadways in the city, and we do only about 5 miles a year, and we're pretty maxed out with our staff and finances. So if you do the math on it, we have quite a few years left to rebuild the city.
And so then, and the water and sewer systems, again, underground or above ground, if you consider the towers, of course. But all of that is going on while the rest of us are at work, at play, at school. Right?
That's right. Yeah, the water system never stops. I mean, we constantly have to be filling the water towers, treating the water, and then once the water is used, obviously the sewer system has to operate. So it has to flow by gravity out of the city. And if we have any water main breaks or leaks in the water services, our staff comes out any time of night to investigate those situations.
Now, yet another area Public Works handles is for staff to get out, they've got to go in a city vehicle. Or for the police and the fire to get there, they too have to be in a city vehicle. and you maintain all of them.
That's right. We have a mechanics area, or a shop basically, that maintains all the rolling stock in the city of all police, fire, park and rec vehicles, and then our public works vehicles and such. So they can fix anything from a large ladder truck down to a little riding lawnmower.
Wow. So, and again, year-round operations that all have to be coordinated with a budget, and not just for the city of Edina. You actually have to work with the neighboring metro area and county and state system as well.
Yep, we coordinate with all those different agencies, the county, state, like the DNR, the Army Corps. Metro Transit's another one that we coordinate with. We work with them on places, just signage and such. One of the larger projects that we're coordinating with is the state of Minnesota in the cities of Eden Prairie and Bloomington is a 169 and 494 project, the big interchange project, which is a huge design build project.
So there's always something happening in the world of public works. And again, taxpayers pay for this service, and even though we can't see these folks, we need them. How do you keep it all going, especially when you can't predict some of the changes of season, like snowfall and potholes that affect the work that you do and the budgets to keep it all going?
We obviously staff is experts in these fields, and so they look ahead to the different seasons. So, for instance, in July they'll start working on the snowplow equipment in the shop and make sure that all the sanders and the trucks are up and running, so that when October hits, that we're ready to go. So they have blessed with a real excellent, great staff that's always looking forward to the next season, the next issue that they have to tackle.
And the challenge is always working smarter so that the budget is right down to the penny.
That's the other thing is as we go along, budgets are declining, if not stabilizing, and how do you work smarter? One is to utilize the technology, and one example of that is in our survey department or an engineering department. We've actually taken a survey crew of typically that used to be 3+ people to go out and survey the different projects, and we reduced it down to essentially one person that can utilize a GPS or a robotic type survey type equipment. And we've actually downsized the van that this individual uses from a full-size Econoline van down to a Ford Transit van.
Wow. Wayne Houle, it's a lot of work under your direction. Thanks so much for all the work you do. You may be behind the scenes, but we count on you every day, all year round. Thanks so much for joining us in Edina.
Great, thanks.
Spring season brings flowers, but it also brings a few headaches on the road, potholes. And here to tell us about the fix in Edina is Street Foreman Sean Anderson. Welcome to Edina.
Thank you.
I bet you're not a very popular guy in the spring season around pothole, Tom, are you?
I'm not. A lot of people are after
blame
me.
You.
Yes.
I have to admit, I'm a victim of a pothole breakdown this year as well. How are we? It seems like this year is a banner year for potholes. Is it true?
It is. It is.
Why is that?
Freeze and thaw cycles are what create the potholes. Water gets into little cracks in asphalt and concrete during the day, and then at night it freezes and expands and pops the asphalt.
So we're talking about blacktop or concrete, the freeze and thaw, it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. It can hit concrete and blacktop.
Doesn't matter if it's Edina or any other suburb, too, because...
Fortunately, all cities in Minnesota get the share in the potholes.
This is the equalizer, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you have a challenge, too, because potholes, you're constantly having to fill them.
Exactly. We fill them with a non-permanent fix. Basically, we just keep putting it in the potholes until we can get to that permanent fix.
What makes it a permanent fix, then? What's the transitional period?
Usually when the frost is out of the road and it's dry, then we can put tack and actual asphalt back in the potholes, and that tends to stay in the potholes.
For a long time.
Yes.
So you can have a situation where we could be under freeze and thaw, and overnight, a whole new crop of potholes.
Exactly. You can drive one street one day and it would be clear the next day. You could literally have potholes everywhere.
Now, how do you organize yourself what's your plan of attack when a new season comes around and people are calling in with their pothole complaints? What's your plan of attack for getting the cities taken care of?
We actually send out crews in all quadrants of the city to do the non-permanent patching, just trying to keep up on the potholes. We have a pothole blitz. As soon as the asphalt plants open, whatever day that is in May, we actually everybody goes out and helps fill potholes when we can do the permanent fix.
And you start with main roads first then?
Exactly.
Okay.
The red routes first.
Now, but people need to understand that the city of Edina is responsible for the city streets, but we have city, county, and state roadways.
Exactly. We have a lot of county roads that dissect Edina through many different areas that are in kind of rough shape. They're getting older too. Any of the freeway systems is all MnDOT. The bridges over and the on and off ramps all belong to MnDOT. We don't maintain those streets at all.
But you hear the complaints, don't you?
We do. We get the complaints.
Now, I have to give you some credit this year because while I had a pothole experience in the city of Edina, I actually was able to report it right away on my phone while I was waiting for the tow truck to arrive. The reporting system is really helpful. How does it work?
A resident can go on our City of Edina website and they fill out some information. They give their name and their address and phone number, and then they can actually in a comment section tell me right where the pothole is that they're hitting, and I get that as a service request, which I give right to my pothole crews to go out, and if we have any problems, we have a way to reach you back to find out exactly where that pothole is.
Yeah,
it's the best communication that we can set up.
It works really slick, and again,
does.
admittedly, you hit these potholes a lot of times at night when you can't see them. But it's expensive, so people get irritated and then they complain and they want some action fast. How fast are you able to process these complaints?
Depending on the days. Some days I get 20, 30, 40 requests in and I can't get them all in that day. If you throw a rain day in there, that backs me up quite a bit. But we send out crews every single day to do our best to keep up on the potholes. So you don't hit that same pothole many times. We try to at least get something in it.
And again, going back to there's local, county, and state roads, you're responsible for the local roads here, and you'll help direct folks to county support and state support for reporting purposes, right?
Exactly. We have different numbers that we can have them call for county and state pothole reporting.
All right, so pothole reporting, City of Edina website's the way to go. It ends up in your inbox, and then you fire out a bunch of crews. How many are on your team?
I have about 12 or 13 guys.
Wow, Sean, it's a lot of work. Maybe not the most popular man in the springtime, but we really do appreciate the heavy lifting throughout the year. Thanks so much for joining us on In Edina.
Thank you.
Tis the season for road construction, and joining us to talk about all the projects in the city of Edina, Jack Sullivan, Assistant City Engineer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy spring.
Happy construction season.
Hey, listen, isn't it a fact of life? We always have a little something going on the roadways.
Especially in Edina and in Minnesota here with the freeze-thaw cycles, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, that's just how it is. And so we get used to it as drivers and pedestrians. We have to get around. Lots of projects here in the city. What's the overview?
Yeah, we have 7 neighborhood reconstruction projects this summer of varying sizes and complexity. 4 sidewalk projects that we'll be working on throughout our community, either new sidewalks or reconstruction of some existing sections. Mm-hmm. And then we have 5 state aid projects, which are like our 70th Street, 44th Street, 69th Street, some of those type of roadways that'll be seeing some improvements as well.
Whether you're new to Edina or you're a long-time resident, this is just a part of the process. The city streets have been around for a while, and so they need some tweaking every time.
That's correct. Yeah, most of our community was built in the 50s and 60s, and all these streets are coming of age to be rehabilitated, and some things have changed also in our community. What we value, mass transit, pedestrian movements, bicycle movements, things like that are starting to help design the roads as well as we reconstruct them.
Now you've got to keep up with all those projects. We don't have time to talk about all of them, including just general maintenance, which is ongoing year-round. But let's highlight some of the bigger projects, Minnehaha Woods in particular.
Yeah, this is a part of town west of the creek, or mostly west of the creek there, that is having a lot of infrastructure improvements, water main improvements, sanitary sewer improvements, plus street, curb and gutter, and just a very extensive project, a full summer worth of work out there.
Yeah, now we should say that all of these projects that are starting up in the spring, they start at different times and end at different times, but they should all be finished this year, is that right?
That's correct. Our plan is to have everything back to 100% by the fall time, probably mid-October, certainly before the snow flies.
Yeah. Now Golf Terrace is another big project going on.
Yeah, that's a project that is similar to the Minnehaha Woods project, where there's a lot of water main replacement work going on, some sewer work, and a lot of curb and gutter addition and new pavement for the entire neighborhood.
How do you pick the projects? Is it just when it's time due, or is there a calendar that you organize for this?
We have a very extensive pavement management program here in the community where we are able to rate all the streets in town on an ongoing basis to understand how they're aging and when we need to get in and replace those streets. And so we prioritize those across our entire community, all 250 some miles of roadway.
What's going on over at Carson's Hill?
That's another very large neighborhood project, a little less extensive on the utility work, more surface type work. The pavement's in very poor shape, and there'll be miscellaneous repairs of the sanitary and water main, but not wholesale replacements like some of the other neighborhoods we talked about.
Is all of this work done by city employees, or do you have to work with folks outside the area as well?
Well, from a design standpoint, a lot of the projects are done by city staff. However, our staff load, there's a few projects that we have to consult out to the private consulting engineering firms. And then we bid all these projects out to contractors, local contractors, to do the construction work through the summer.
Now, Macaulay Heights is another area, right?
Yeah, that's a much smaller neighborhood, a little more unique. But there again, it doesn't matter the size of the neighborhood. Sometimes we need to get some big neighborhoods, and we also need to get some small ones because they're aging just the same.
Oscar Roberts, Ridge Road?
Yeah, those are two projects. Oscar Roberts is over off France and 72nd area. They're again a smaller neighborhood, but still having poor pavement conditions and some utility improvements. And the Ridge Road, more of a unique project, shorter 2-block section or so, northwest part of our community, very narrow, 18-foot wide roadway, very forested, little different look than a standard curb and guttered 32-foot wide roadway that a lot of our community has.
Does that make it any easier, or the size make any difference, or if it's next to a school or next to a particular business?
Well, certainly the school's activities, we try to write into our contracts that the contractor needs to work at timelines that are not affecting the school, water shutoffs, road closures, detours that try to happen over the summer months, try to get back up and running before school starts. However, a lot of our schools have year-round activities, so it's almost impossible, but we do our best to coordinate all those activities with the district.
Good move. Now, I know as a taxpayer, this is a big question. How do you keep it on budget? What are you doing to keep it on budget in this day and age?
Two things, I guess. The first one is we're very diligent in our plan preparation to make sure that we're not missing any oversight type things. We do a lot of soil investigation, sewer investigation before a project starts. And then throughout the project, we have construction inspectors that are constantly monitoring the quality of the work and also the cost associated with the work that's being done. And we're seeing very good prices right now. We're still in an economic climate where contractors are hungry for work. They're bidding these projects very low with minimal profit, I'm sure, on their part, but so we're taking advantage of the fact that we're in a climate that we can do more work with the same amount of dollars.
Jack, and way to go around. You coordinate all these projects too. Thank you so much for the latest update. I know there'll be more. Job well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Happy spring and have a great summer.
You too.
Lots of us may be busy in the yard getting our trees together for the season, and the city forester is doing just the same, only he has a ton of trees to take care of. Joining us, the City of Edina's city forester, Tom Horwath. Welcome to Edina. Happy spring, and you are really busy right now.
It's a busy time, spring planting, but can't complain after this long winter. So
yeah, nice to get out, isn't it?
It is.
You're ready. Now, as a city forester, you're responsible essentially for all the trees and vegetation in the city, right?
Trees, public and private property. There's private issues, of course, that I get involved with, Dutch elm disease and oak wilt control, mostly during the summer when those diseases are active. Or hazardous trees. It could bring me on to private property for public safety purposes. Other than that, quite busy in the park system too with all the many trees we have in our park system.
But really, you have to divide it into, you mentioned residential responsibility and then city responsibility, and you also serve as a consultant to residents who may have questions when they aren't exactly sure. You mentioned Dutch elm disease or oak wilt in particular in terms of trees. Are you going around surveying to see if there's something like this around, and then you have to meet with the resident to take care of it?
That's pretty much constant during the summertime. I'm more out on the road than I'm in my office, so constantly driving around the city, and I've been here for 22 years, so I know kind of the whereabouts of elm populations, where to be looking the most, but Summertime, pretty much almost every day. I got to be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
And when found, then it's my job to get the notices out. Unfortunately, with Dutch elm disease, there's heavy time constraints, only 3 weeks to really get this disease out in order to try and save the other elm.
Does that mean taking the tree out completely then?
Completely out and gone, properly disposed of too.
And
so.
residents are responsible for anything in their yard straight up to the city street, correct?
Yes, they are. And
Okay.
that includes any maintenance of what we may call boulevard trees, lining the streets or close to streets and sidewalks. So.
And you have some ordinances that help guide you and residents on what to plant or what not to plant. There are some trees in particular that are just not recommended for planting, and the ordinance helps protect that in the city. What are some of those trees, and why can't we have them? Like the silver maple, for instance.
Yeah, the silver, by ordinance, there's a handful of trees. Silver maple, box elder, cottonwood, willow trees, and no evergreens of any sort are allowed on the boulevards. Basically, the broadleaf trees that I mentioned are considered weakly attached branches that are more susceptible to storm damages and whatnot. So it's kind of a little public safety concern to have these trees so close to the streets.
And the evergreens have a tendency to creep.
Yeah, they have low branches. Nobody wants to cut them up. That's the way they like to keep them. So obviously, if they're too close to the street, these low branches start creeping into the streets and interfering with sidewalks too.
Now, you wanted to talk a little bit about buckthorn. What's going on with buckthorn these days?
Well, buckthorn, the last 20 years, 15 to 20 years, been brought to the forefront as it is a non-native invasive tree shrub, they call it, growing in our woodlots. Actually, a lot of people had used that for hedges, but that has quickly spread into our woods, and I call it the dandelion of the woods, more or less. It grows in abundance like dandelions on a lawn and can do that type of damage to lawns. Buckthorn can kind of do the same thing in these very important woodlots that we have spread throughout Edina in our park system and on private property as well. Crowding out all other native vegetation, we get a monoculture of buckthorn. It's, like I say, it's a tree shrub, very thorny, so we get thickets so bad it makes even walking in the woods a very,
tough.
very
It's
difficult
tough
thing.
to walk through, and so you'll work through and actually treat that to get rid of the buckthorn, correct?
Yeah, it should be done properly and carefully whenever working in the woods. There are certain things you don't want to be doing damage to the trees that you're trying to preserve. So getting rid of buckthorn, I tell people first lesson is make sure that you kill the stump, or rather
get rid of that root source.
Get rid of that root source. Otherwise you have much more buckthorn coming up from the ground, and it's all the more difficult to get a park system.
Well, Tom, we appreciate you coming by today to tell us a little bit about the city business in the world of trees. Thanks so much for taking care of our world here in the city, and we'll let you get back to work with your crew.
All right, thank you very much.
If you're out and about this spring and you look up on the trees and you see some caterpillars, you might want to have it checked out. Joining us to talk about gypsy moths here in Minnesota is Lucia Hunt from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, supervisor of the Gypsy Moth Unit. Welcome to Edina.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we have some gypsy moths here in Edina. They've been recently discovered, correct?
Yes, last fall we discovered a small infestation, about 136 acres, near the interchange of Highway 169 and 62.
Now, it's bad because these little bugs eat a lot of leaves. How much and how much damage can they do?
They certainly do. They have a pretty good appetite. They can, each caterpillar can eat about 9 square feet of foliage in its lifetime. But there's never just one caterpillar. There's always, each egg mass can hold up to 1,000 caterpillars.
Wow.
So there's a lot of hungry mouths to feed.
Yeah, they can cover a tree really quick and take it down.
They certainly can. A lot of times, After defoliation, if a tree is vigorous, it can survive a defoliation. Year after year, repeated defoliations can kill the tree, however.
Now, they seem to gravitate toward oak trees, right?
That's their favorite.
That's their favorite. Okay, so if you have some oak trees, keep an eye out for the caterpillars and describe them, because there's lots of different species out there, right?
Definitely. The gypsy moth caterpillar is very distinctive. It's about 2 inches long and very hairy. But if you look closely down the back, there are some pairs of dots, colored dots. It starts out with some pairs of blue dots, steely blue dots, and then rusty red dots at the end.
Now, part of the work that you do with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture is you monitor the movement of these caterpillars and these gypsy moths. And you do this with traps, 20,000 traps around the state?
That's right. We have an average of about 20,000 traps every year across the state, and these are baited traps. So we're able to draw in the adult male moths, and counting those moths, we're able to see where the populations are moving, where they're starting up, where infestations are blossoming.
And that's how you found them here in Edina?
That's right, yes.
So one of the traps indicated some information, and now you're treating this particular area, correct? What kind of treatment is there?
It's an aerial treatment, first of all. We're going to be using a product called BTK, which is Bacillus thuringiensis, variety Kerstaki. It's a very common soil microbe, and it's actually very commonly sold in hardware stores. It's an organic formulation that I'll be using, and what it does is we'll apply it to the foliage. The caterpillars will then eat the foliage, get a stomach ache, stop feeding, and die.
Mm-hmm. So there's quite a progression that goes from the egg to the caterpillar and on through until they become moths. But in a season, they can be very destructive to a yard or a particular neighborhood. How does Minnesota compare to other states with this challenge?
Minnesota is right on the edge. We have not experienced any defoliations yet in the state. But it is coming our way. It's in central Wisconsin, and it's a slow march toward Minnesota. So right now the Department of Agriculture is taking steps to delay the establishment of the populations here. And that's why we're doing treatments in small areas like this, because we don't want it to become a permanent issue.
Mm-hmm. Now you're actually doing some treatments, not just in Edina, but also a couple other places here in the metro, right?
That's right. Our traps picked up a couple different hot spots here in the metro. We have some acreage up in Coon Rapids, and then over in the city of Grant. There's a similar BTK treatment planned for the city of Duluth as well.
Okay, but it's not serious. These bugs can't hurt you. They can hurt your trees, which is why you want to report it if you see it, and there are ways to report it. You have a hotline. Arrest the Pest hotline, right?
Yes, Arrest the Pest hotline. This is the Minnesota Department of Agriculture's Plant Protection Division hotline, and it covers emerald ash borer, gypsy moth, and several other critters out there that we're interested in our citizens' help to find.
So that's helpful to report. So if you see any of these bugs or you're just unsure, call the number. What's the number, please?
Definitely. It's 888-545-MOTH.
One last question. The treatment, how long will it take before we're back on track?
There's 2 passes, 2 aerial treatments around the end of May. Mm-hmm. And after that, we'll be setting out more of those traps and monitoring the eradication success.
All right. Wonderful. Well, we wish you success with all the gypsy moths this season.
Thank you very much.
We hope you've enjoyed this broadcast of In Edina. We'd like to thank all of our guests for appearing, and also the Public Works Department for letting us bring you this broadcast from their fine new facility. Special thanks to you for watching. Until next time, you've been watching In Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Make it a great day.